Okay, we have Amy Flynn here with us today from Heartsong Village Center. Amy Flynn is a visionary educator, integrative health coach, and community leader dedicated to holistic wellness and experiential learning. She's also a greener. As the founder of Heartsong Village Center, she creates spaces for connection, growth, and self-discovery. With a deep understanding of the mind-body connection, she empowers individuals to reclaim their bodies, find purpose, and cultivate balance through movement, nature, and community engagement. I will stop sharing my screen now and turn it over to you, Amy.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I see people. I see my friends. Hi, friends. Welcome, everybody. I'm Amy, and thank you, Paige and Tamsin, for having me. Um, so I'd like to start off here, and you all can see me, right? Okay, I just haven't shared the screen yet. Okay, so I want to just start off with everyone coming together in this space. We're in the Heartsong Beautiful Sanctuary space right now. But wherever you are, stand up if you will. Take a stand. And we're just gonna enter this space together. Feel free to turn your screen off if it's not already, and just take some deep breaths. So I'm a movement teacher. I have drank the Kool-Aid when it comes to how much movement can be helpful. So I took classes at Evergreen where they had us do movement before we actually tried to sit down and listen, and it was one of the most helpful things that I've ever experienced. So everyone coming into mountain pose and yoga, that's just feet hip width apart, arms out, palms out, and the step back. So you guys can kind of take a look at my posture a little bit more. We're just going to take some deep breaths. You can make a sound if you want. It's really good for your nervous system. And then you can bring in a little bit of a sway if you want. And you can do this in a chair too if you just really don't want to stand up. So close your eyes if it feels safe and good, and just allow yourself to move your body a little bit. You can come into sway arms. You can shake your head. You can move your hips. But we're coming into this sensation that we are entering and embodying our bodies right now before we try to sit and actually pay attention to, 45 minutes worth of chatting. So coming here, and what we're going to do to start is just invite in a 4, 7, 8 breath. So that's 4 inhalation seconds in. We hold for 7 if you can, and then we exhale, pushing the air out. You can bring your hands in if you want. So we'll take a nice deep inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, pressing it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continuing your own pace. 4 in, pausing. If you want, you can kind of squeeze the body, creating tension. And then as you release the breath, you release everything. So in your own pace, just starting to wake up in the nervous system, creating a little bit of stimulation, entering this space together. Our feet are on the ground, starting in the same place. And then when you're ready, just returning to your own breath. And we're going to bring in just a little bit of Tai Chi movement here. So the feet are going to spread out a little bit wider than hip distance apart. The knees are going to bend. And just start with a little bit of a bounciness, feeling fluid in the top of your body and in the bottom of your body. And then from here, we're going to take our hands, feeling into the energy centers, the palms, the fingertips. We're going to come up as if we're scooping the energy of the earth up, taking a nice deep inhale, and then exhale, we're out the top of the head. And just going as slow as you like. The knees can bend as you come down, and then picking up the energy, bring it through the midline of the body, through the chakra, out the crown chakra, clearing. So this is just a nice reset feeling. You can go really slow if you really want to feel into those fingertips, into the palms, or you can speed it up if it feels better, adding a little bit of mobility into the shoulders. So doing whatever feels good on your body, maybe switching directions with the arms if you like. And then just inviting in any sort of organic movement that might come right now. Any sort of sighs or hums or ohms, great for the vagus nerve, great for toning the back of the throat, which then runs through all these different really important parts of our body. And then when you're ready, everybody's just coming back to mountain. Arms out, feeling into the palms up to the sky, nice deep inhale. And then exhale, just allowing for those hands to come back down to the earth. And then when you're ready, if you want to come back towards the screen, or if you want to just listen and continue your movement, feel free. So my name again is Amy Flynn. I am the founder and the director of Heartsong Village Center. We are in the process of creating a movement, creating a space for people to really come and be seen and feel heard and come back into movement. So I'm teaching gentle yoga classes and some stronger core classes right now, just starting at this really basic level of helping people to come back to themselves and their bodies. Oftentimes in this modern world, we lose our bodies and we end up on our phones, sitting or watching TV. We don't grow up with nature like we once did. So that is one piece of Heartsong that is really near and dear to my heart, and as to why I started this off with movement, because for me, movement has kind of saved me. Movement in nature, I don't know where I would be without those foundational aspects of my life. So I'm going to share my little screen and I just have a little kind of mini PowerPoint to share. And let's see if I can get into it. I have all of your beautiful faces at the bottom of my screen. There we go. Okay, so share. Oh, wait, nope, that's the wrong share button. Okay, that's funny. So just continue on with your breath and finding, finding the way in which you can settle into this moment. So here we are, Mind Body Village is the name of this presentation today. And lots of ways to say kind of what we're trying to reclaim here at Heartsong, a new way to heal together, an ancient way of healing together. It's a way of coming together and acknowledging ourselves as animals and as biological beings that need human touch. We need human interaction. We need nature. We need movement. We need deep connections, and we need meaning in our lives. And this dream has sprouted from my experience, a lifetime of living in this modern culture and feeling disconnected, oftentimes feeling challenged by our systems and the oftentimes brokenness of our systems. So here we have our friends coming together in this first little slide. Here is our name, my name, and then moving towards, this is just which will be our last slide we'll come back to, but we're searching for friends and family and extended family to join our village. So I'm going to stop the share there and just come back to my own screen and kind of start at the beginning here of my kind of story and what we're going to be chatting about today, and kind of the idea as we're coming into this discussion of what if at this time of extreme modernization in our lives, where we can do so many things immediately, we can connect with people around the world, what if what we truly needed was to slow down and to come back to ourselves and to come back to our foundation and our roots in nature. So taking another deep breath and feeling into our bodies, keeping that connection to ourselves as we sit here with ourselves. You'll be listening and focusing externally, but also coming back to the body. Where am I? How am I feeling? How am I sitting? So feeling into that, I'll just start with my story. Um, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I lived in the suburbs there, and it was a challenging, probably upbringing. I think a lot of people can relate to back in the early 80s and 90s, kind of a latchkey kid, lots of TV, video games had just come out. It was an amazing time to be a kid. And so I didn't really have a lot of family support. And when I was about 8, we moved from there. So I lost all of my extended family. And then we kept moving and we kept moving and moved about 4 or 5 times. So didn't stay long in any of the spaces, but I kept realizing that there was something missing. And then especially as you get older and you're becoming a teenager and you really want to connect with your peers, it's important to have that sense of connectivity. So I recognized that I didn't have that as life kept going on and I kept getting older. And I remembered a time when I lived in Michigan when we had our extended family, and we also had the Boys and Girls Club that was down the street from my house, and I was able to walk there and I was able to really feel what it felt like to have a community of people that I did healthy things with. We would play games, we would run, we would play dodgeball and kickball. There was an art center. So for me, I feel like it really created this seed of what community could be like, especially if we didn't really have the most like supportive and engaging like family community, in my own house. So so that was a seed planted. I then I then grew up. I graduated high school, and then I started having health issues, very kind of, what might you say, like gentle at first. And then things just kind of started adding up more and more, and I was not sleeping very well. It kind of runs in my family, and so just fatigue and an inability to really feel like I was really connecting with the aliveness of the world and of my dreams. And then I started to reach out to doctors to try to get some support. And I actually had to wait because I didn't have health insurance. So, I didn't start trying until I graduated Evergreen when I was like 28. Finally got a doctor, got my first job at the Y, making like $10 an hour. And I went in there, I got my 5 minutes, and they said, okay, so do you want sleeping pills or antidepressants? And I was like, really? Like, that's all you got? Like, I'm young. I should not be having all of these issues. And so it really just struck a deep chord for me on a personal level. And also seeing my dad kind of grow up in an earlier generation where smoking was seen as a something healthy to do. So he grew up smoking, 3-pack a day habit, and then saw him, get taken out by the allopathic health model. I mean, he wasn't supported, and he had a huge operation. He was left on Oxycontin for 15 years. And at the end, he was on over like 12 medications. And no one ever talked about lifestyle. No one ever talked about movement or food, what kind of food he was eating, any sort of lifestyle things that he could do. And so that kind of brought me into my focus on health coaching. And I was still dealing with, and still am dealing with, all of the issues that come with this particular body, this lifetime. And so I saw that in my father, and then I experienced the challenges in our health system in my own body and in my own heart and mind. And I just was like, there's got to be something more here. And then I experienced that there was practice, really like practical and what's the word? They like good, for lack of a better word, like really great practitioners out there, but then they were so expensive, nobody could afford them, And so I started thinking about what if we created this like cooperative of people that, could help each other and bring in, supportive alternative care, which looking back isn't even really alternative. It's modern, medicine that is the new thing. This stuff has been around, acupuncture and eating well and movement. It's rudimentary to who we are as humans and as animals. And um, so yeah, I had the kind of the springing of the dream around after I graduated from Evergreen about 15 years ago or so. Um, and and then I tried to do it, and it was really hard. I tried to start a nonprofit, and it was so hard. And then I had my first child, Serafina, and I kind of gave up for a bit. And but there was always this need inside of me, this seed that was saying, "This is possible. This is something that we need." And then I gave birth to Serafina, my first and only child, and what I experienced as a mother, disconnected from everything. We were like suburbia Olympia, so I couldn't walk to a store, I couldn't walk to a cafe, um, and it was so isolating. And and then Serafina was a crier, so taking her in the car was really difficult. So I just realized it kind of deepened this dream that I had, this little seed that I had planted. I was like, we need more. We need health and wellness and support, but we also just need like community. We also just need to feel like we are okay, because we are pack animals. We are meant to raise our children to be together in a community, tribes and hunter and gatherers. That's how we evolved. So um, I experienced that firsthand, and it was crushing. It was definitely the hardest few years, but that first year especially. If you've ever had a kid, that first year is tough. Not a supportive partner, and then I started to try to figure out how I could leave this situation, this not fully functioning relationship that I was in with Serafina's father, and try to go somewhere else. And then I found how hard it is to find housing insecurity and food insecurity. I mean, there's a lot, but housing insecurity right now, especially, I think I read that the price of housing has gone up like 150% over the past, I think, decade or so. And it's just, what are we doing? We can't even afford to live anymore. And so another piece to Heart Song is actually creating the village. So we're trying to get permitted and work with the county to start building cottage housing here, affordable housing, and to really focus on people who need housing in general, but to the single mamas that are raising children, and then these children are not getting a chance to actually be raised in a safe and secure place. And so then they're gaining their trauma for their next, for the next generation and the next. And what we need is to like stop the trauma. And if we can give people housing, if we can give people real food, if we can give people meaning, it's so basic yet so life-changing. And so that's what we're working on here. Um, there's so many layers to it because of the complexities of the zoning and the permitting system and how expensive it is. So we're doing our best to get that ball rolling, but we're on 8 acres here on a well, and we are breaking ground in our garden and kind of doing the best that we can to move forward. And then so for now, we're focusing on the movement classes. We're focusing on, I just restarted our after school program, our outdoor holistic nature program, and that's called Forest Friends. It was a more of a preschool program back when I was working with Fern Valley Forest School and my friend Carissa. And so it's great to start bringing the children back. It's a main piece to the puzzle for me is this holistic vision that, we're all very valuable at every space along the cycle of life. So, our babies obviously need a ton of attention and care. And then we need people around that maybe chose not to have children, but maybe want to play with babies. And then we need that space for the mamas and the dads to like have a break and recuperate. And then it just goes on and on. The young people that are ready to really dig in and want to like move towards something that has a lot of meaning, a huge outdoor art project or a cob structure. I mean, we're so lucky to have the space to just explore and to really do whatever it is that we want, building permits permitted. But we can build a pond. We're building our garden right now. So yeah, and then as we move up into having space for our elders too, I'd love to start moving towards having more space and, classes for elders as well as just a place for them to come and like be with the children. There's places in the Netherlands that are like preschools, and nursing homes are one and the same, and they help to keep the older people alive and allow them to have meaning in their lives and allow them to have a reason to to live. And then the children get to be with our wonderful elder generations that have so much wisdom to share. So um, the dream is vast and big, and it's on its way. So we've been here for about 7-8 months now. It'll be a year in July. And we have our classes going, and I have a lot of hope for the summer. It's our time here in the Pacific Northwest to have our like 2.5 months of like beautiful weather and summertime sun. So hoping to do a lot of classes outside, especially our Tai Chi, different movement classes. We're also in the process of starting a mothers and childcare kind of co-op. So people that have children but maybe don't have the access to childcare or don't have the money to pay for childcare can come to class and then support each other. So, a group of 5 adults, each one takes a different turn watching the kids that week. So we're just trying to create something that is supportive to as many people as possible. And so it's exciting because really this vision is a container for people to come and share their gifts. And whether your gift is, creating a beautiful garden or an amazing mural or teaching a class, the dream is to have space for us all to come and to share and to find meaning again and find healing through connection. In my journey with feeling kind of abandoned in our healthcare system, that's when I started to come in more and more towards these practices where I realized I could feel good in my body. And maybe I didn't feel good before. And if I bring in some movement and some breath and I let my nervous system calm down, I can start to feel a little better. And, learning more and more about how much stress is affecting our nervous systems and therefore is like the keystone to, I think it was the top 8, major diseases in our culture today. And if you change your stress levels, you change, your expression of whatever's going on for you. There's the whole nature, nurture, and turning our genes on and off. And so it's just interesting to think that, the more we're able to slow down, even though we're in an incredibly fast-paced world and we're all trying to do as much as we can to help as we see this world that, in some ways of looking at it might seem like it's crumbling right now. And what I learned at Evergreen was I can create the alternative for the crumbling. And for me personally, I'm not able to go out into the streets and do direct action and show up in that way. But what feels like my truth is creating a space for us to be and become and remember where we started in this life as animals and where we're hopefully going, because we're not going to lose, whatever, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution as animals on this planet. We're not going to lose where we came from. And the more we can come back and come back to this way of being, the healthier and happier we can become. So I'm just going to pause for a moment, coming back into our bodies, closing your eyes if it feels good, and just taking a few deep breaths. Because I just talked a lot. I'm going to take a sip of water. Just returning to your own body, maybe even doing a little body scan, topping, starting at the top of the head, going down the face, down the shoulders, the arms. And if you want to bring in some movement, if you're standing again, or if you're laying on the ground, do whatever you want. A big focus on our classes is just listening to our own body and doing what feels good to ourselves, with ourselves in our community of people that are also exploring what it is to be human and what it is to feel alive, to feel supported, to feel, dare I say, happy. So, okay, so coming back, we're going to bring in another little tool here that I really love. So if you would stand up, you can. If you want to stay seated, that's fine. From here, this is just a lymphatic stimulation. So this is just going to help support the body to kind of move and flow a little bit better. So we're just going to start at the top of our head, do a little tap. And then we're just going to move down the body. As we breathe deep, moving down the body, down the arms. And you can hit yourself as hard or as soft as you like. And just making your all the way down. And all the way back up. We'll take a nice deep inhale together. Exhale out the mouth. Beautiful. Okay. So finding ourselves back in our fancy lecture that we're a part of today. Thank you all for being here again. Just looking into what I might go into next. I think really going into the piece of supporting the next generation is a huge part of Heartsong's mission, and having that holistic wheel. So we're supporting the parents, we're supporting the children. They both have a place to be and a place to be supported and loved. You know, our children especially need that extended family, that community to really show up and to really be role models for our kids. And I think we can all say we're not perfect. So having, you know, our kids have other options and other people in our lives that are really working on themselves, that are working on showing up in a good way, it's a beautiful thing. And so having the after school program, having children's programming, allowing for these kids to come outside and play and, you know, climb and move their bodies. You know, it's a great and really important time for children to feel into that risk assessment. And so outdoor education really helps children to see, how far can I jump? How high can I climb? How many sticks can I hold before they all fall over? So, you know, watching these kids just get to also come alive in their own way. They're not necessarily, you know, we do a little bit of yoga and a little bit of movement. You know, as children, it's a little hard to pay attention to that sort of stuff, but to just see them get to play and get to run around and get to, you know, use their bodies in the ways that they were meant to. As animals, we are meant to climb, we are meant to like extend in all these different ways. And most of the time we're like this. And it sucks. It sucks for our bodies. It's not good for our minds. It's not good for our hearts. And so having a place like this where not only the children can come, but the adults can come too. We've been doing more work parties, work and play parties, we call them. And we're about to get the trail going. So when people come, they can come to a class and then they can go walk in the meadows and in the forest here. They can go say hi to the chickens and the chicks that are about to come. So really kind of recognizing this need. And yes, to the person who just said adult sized playgrounds, that was my dream. And we do have things that both children and adults can play on. And hopefully someday we'll raise the money to have enough to actually have an adult sized playground. But they have those around the world, and there's tons of people that use them, and the population that is older does so much better because they are not just kind of crunching into themselves and like losing height. And so having the children here is a blessing. It's so beautiful. And it's been a great lesson for me to just see the simplicity. A lot of children don't even get a chance to play in nature anymore. And so seeing that, and then also being able to coach them and focus on social and emotional intelligence, it's really just feeling into, we focus a lot on our mental intelligence in school, but there is a lot of other intelligence, and that's where the holistic comes in, that we want to honor in our children as well as ourselves. And so what I learned at Evergreen, the beautiful Evergreen that changed my life, was that I get to build whatever I want, and whoever I am and whatever my truth is perfect. And um, and yeah, we get to create our realities. So coming back, Forest Friends, our outdoor program, is a key place, a key placement here. And then just moving towards having community move on to the property and really just creating more space for having more classes. So the summer, as of now, we're not going to be doing a summer program. So I'm hoping to just really do a ton of stuff outside, a summer program for kids, like a summer camp. Do a lot of things outside with parents, with kids, together, apart, and just use this place as this like living experimental, ground to see what it is that we as community members, we as humans, what we want to create, what we need. And I know that, every single person is going to bring their own gift, and it's going to bring a different variation and a different addition to this amalgamation of ideas and dreams that are coming together. And my partner, Marty Kenny, brings this huge, beautiful vision, is in that he's a carpenter and a contractor and can actually build the houses. So it's exciting to think that we are closer than we've ever been on a personal level, but I feel like almost on a collective level too. I mean, we are more and more trying to come back to being on land in nature where we can remember what it feels like to be human. And so that's our dream here. And I think we'll start our little share on the computer once more. We'll come right back to where we left off. Perfect. So now you heard what we're all about, and we're just open and receiving whatever and whoever wants to come in. We just started working with Evergreen this past quarter with our intern Jenna. Shout out to Jenna. It's been great having just someone who's learning, but also, fresh ideas and, just support. Because this is, I don't know if you heard, a huge project, a huge dream. And I know that as of now, it's meant to be here because it is. And it's been something that I have been dreaming of ever since the Boys and Girls Club, and ever since my time in Latin America, where I saw how people really, they still had the small village type feel. They weren't so spread out and so connected. People would come to their local little panderias, or their local like little shops, and sit and watch TV or watch sports and drink beer, or they'd come to their centers and they'd sell their goods. And so this is where we have come from, and I know this is where we need to go back. So come to a class, share your skills, bring your heart, cute, and then let's see if we can, there we go. So there's the contact info. Heart Song Village Center. We usually will just pop up these days, but there are other heart songs around the country and world. So we're the Village Center in Olympia. And there's the info. And so just coming back, we're gonna go into a little moment into our breath one last time. Feel free to take a screenshot or anything if you're interested to reach out. And then feeling in, we'll place a hand on our heart and one on our belly. And we'll just feel into the aliveness of our body. If you want, and you're standing, or if you'd like to stand, you can open up your feet a little bit wider and maybe come into a little bit of a sway or a little bit of hip circles. And just feeling into maybe anything that might have come up for you during the past 35 minutes of talking. Maybe it's some feelings or an idea or a question you want to ask. Feel free to write something down right now if you have something that's coming up, or something you would like to share, or something you would like to remember. And when you're ready, we'll just come back into standing. We're just going to shake a little bit. So another really great tool, stand if you will, or sit in your chair and jiggle, but way better if you're standing. So if you really want to get the full effects, allowing for the knees, the hands, the body to shake. Taking that deep breath. Okay. When we're ready, just coming back, slowing down. Oop, that's not what I wanted. Oh, here we go. And then we're going to unshare my screen. We are at our time, so thank you all who came, and for your attention and for your willingness to play and enjoy experiential education at its finest, where we're actually doing things together, we're listening, we're moving, we're engaging. So thank you all. It was so lovely to see like one or two people that have their screens on. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. And we're going to turn to question and answer time. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Thank you all.
Amy, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I feel like for me, this was like basically a whole lifetime of coming to this point where I'm actually here in the physical space. Really, it took me meeting someone who had the financial ability to buy this space. I had this dream, and I've had this dream and heard about this dream from so many different people. There's so many people that want this right now. But a lot of us that have this dream and live this kind of lifestyle don't necessarily have a ton of money. So that was the first huge challenge, was like, how do we even ever come up with the kind of money we could to buy 8 acres, like in town of Olympia. So actually we're 5 feet outside of town. We are in Thurston County. So yes, challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, this is just a humongous project. And when we first moved into the house, I mean, we had to take walls out. This room that we're in was 3 different rooms. And now it's our sanctuary yoga space. And then the house itself was just in a state of disrepair, so we had to paint the entire house. And then that was also why I was working my full time with Forest Friends during the summer last summer. So it's been a ridiculous amount of work, and it doesn't sound like it's going to let up anytime soon. And that's where I'm just like, this really, it's not meant to be just me, because I don't have all the pieces. I have my gift, which is like I'm creating the container, and I have my movement gift, and I have, my voice. I'm also a vocalist. I was going to do some sound healing for you guys, but we couldn't figure out how to get the bowls to process through Zoom. So just have to come to a class. Um, but yeah, money, time, like this is, I haven't worked on anything but this for the past 8 months. So I have not had a full-time job or even a part-time job. So it's really the money, and then it's the work ethic of doing it every day and sitting in front of the computer. And then there's this whole thing where um, I still have health issues, and me sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours every day is very challenging. There's a lot of things that are challenging for me. And so doing that, because that's what it takes. It takes sitting on your butt or standing. I'm at the stand desk right now, but standing or sitting for so many hours looking at a screen, which is exactly the thing that I do not think is that great for humans, but you have to do it to start a business. So I'm really looking forward to that part kind of weaning down, and me getting to like be teaching classes and being with the kids and creating events more. So those are just a few. Thanks for asking. It's not all roses and sunshine, but the hope is there, which is better than not having any hope at all. Oh, okay. Um, well, that's funny. There's a piece to my presentation that I didn't get into, but back when the Red Scare communism was a thing, the government focused on pushing us to have our own individual stuff, our own tiny houses or big houses if we could afford it by ourselves, our own gardens, buying all the things that we need to buy from the corporation. So everyone gets one vacuum. We're not supposed to share. And so that kind of created a lot of zoning laws that made it so people could only be in single family homes, and it made it a lot harder for people to buy land together, people to live communally. And that was like kind of part of the plan. And then so now there's a lot of outdated zoning that goes on. I'm sure people have heard about tiny houses. You may live in one, you may know someone who lives in one. It's a thing because our housing insecurity right now is ridiculous, and the amount of the money that people can make, financial security, it's all just a mess. So people are desperate. I was on that page. I was the past like 5-10 years. I'm like, I'm going to build a tiny house because I had nowhere to go in, a household and a relationship that was very dysfunctional. It was not good for either of us. But then leaving and finding a place that's safe for my child, and also finding a place that's um, supportive, like being a single mom, it's really hard and it's exhausting. And so, I ended up moving in with a friend who was also a single mom, and that was challenging in its own ways. But, we try to make it happen. But in terms of the zoning, it's set up, to what I was talking about. And then also, the ADUs, they there's a lot of permitting things. They want things to be built a very specific way. They used to have this law that I heard they're not going to do anymore, where you had to have a sprinkler system in your ADU. And it's just like, they make it completely like unattainable to create a tiny shed to live in. I'm like, I don't really want to live in a tiny shed, but at least if I had a tiny shed, like I'd have a place to live and my child would be safe. It's not fair. And then on top of that, for our particular property, we are zoned for cottage housing, but there's very high water table over here. So then comes into, the more people, then you have to have more places for the people to poop. So the septic system is an issue. And that's why we're trying to really get more traction around composting toilets, and things like that, because it's like, well, we don't actually really need to be flushing our waste into a sewage system. Or a septic system. There's a lot of ways in which we can deal with it before it ends up like in a watery cesspool under the ground. Like, ew, that's gross. So, but that's a main issue for us. And the ADUs, the tiny houses, or the attached dwelling units. At this point, you can only have so many, and we're zoned 1 to 5. So one house per 5 acres. And if you don't have 10, you can't do another one. So right now we can only have one house on 5 acres, legally with the county. And then potentially some wiggle room with the cottage housing if there's not like gophers, if there's not like 1,000 other things that might stop us from actually being able to build. Great question. I think what gets in the way of connection is trauma. So that is what I've seen. I've seen people who want connection more than anything, because oftentimes people with a trauma background do. I know that I grew up with trauma in my life. And so, you want connection so bad, but if you haven't done the work to kind of work with whatever has come up over the years with your family, lifestyle, whatever happened that created, neglect or abuse or whatever, it's really hard to live in community. It's really hard to move forward. So some people have come to classes and they, how to say this, they are struggling to like know themselves and be aware of themselves. And so therefore community members like create bad energy or whatever. So they start to be unliked by community, so therefore they cannot be in community, because when they are, it's not like working out. And so that's the sad part about it. And that's why I really want to have like a live-in like counselor or trauma-informed counselor who is here. One of my dreams of one of the first people to move in, because I just feel like oftentimes we're not even talking to each other. We're talking to each other's like wounded childs, and our trauma. And so without helping to heal that, it's challenging. And that's kind of what we sign up for with this too, is like, you're not sitting alone in your room anymore. You're interacting with people and you're getting feedback and they're giving feedback. And that's just the way it works. It encourages us to learn and grow, which is to me the point of what we're doing here in life. And it's fun. You can also have fun. You have music parties, potlucks, game nights, laughing, like how often do you laugh out loud? That's a piece to being in community too. Some people do. It is actually very surprising. Because I don't have a lot of money. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. But we try to make it available because, it feels good. Like, and, as in a place where I am now in my life, where I'm like trying really hard to be financially stable and, support my child and doing something that I love, it's all like a gamble. And so it's very fresh in my mind what it feels like to not have money. And so I want to support the people like me, that need the support, that are really hungry, really passionate for something, but maybe they don't have the most resources in the world. And then there's the people that like have a decent amount of money. They're also hungry. They're also lonely and like needing community, and they're really grateful. And so, and I think there's just people that have money and they, as a part of their, I have a family that they both have really great jobs, and a part of how they, function in their world is they give so much a year. So for them, it's kind of a part of how they live their life. Yes. Yeah. It's not like on the website, because I'm constantly working on the website, but barter for sure. I'm already doing that with people. Just it's not like advertised, but yeah, we definitely do barter. And that's a part of my dream too, because it's like, I was just talking to a massage therapist. I was like, oh God, I could really use a massage. And she wants to come to yoga. And I'm like, oh, great. And it's been my dream to have something to barter because I'm not a carpenter. I can't like make a thing or like I don't really cook. It's not, but I'm like, someday I'm gonna barter for her. So I made it. Here I am. I have the space now and I have, a place to be able to teach. And so it feels really good to barter. And that's like kind of a main thing that we really want to do is like leave the cash system, and just really focus on working with each other and like not needing some sort of piece of paper to like support us. We can support each other through our work and through our love. Well, I guess for me, it depends on what the business is. I think for us, like that is a huge thing of what we want to do is help to fuel the resilience and not like only ourselves, but our children and a future generation. So, having a place where people can gather and people can do healthy things that aren't based around drugs or alcohol. They're based around nature and movement and like, natural dopamine and serotonin, getting our fingers in the dirt, acting like a natural antidepressant for us. I mean, there's so much here to help people to become more resilient and to more healthy. And in terms of other businesses, I really think it just depends on what the business is and what their practices are. Obviously, using not as like toxic materials or doing something where they're giving back to really help support the upliftment of our community, I think would be ideal when that sort of business like is in alignment with that.
Awesome. Well, I think that those are wise words to end on. I want to pause and just express my gratitude and welcome the audience to express their gratitude. Amy, for taking the time, um, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, and also just reminding us a lot of times when we are in learning spaces around business and entrepreneurship, self-care, and being a whole person is not included at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so needed because, especially for entrepreneurs who are trying and trying and trying and falling down and trying again,
Mm-hmm.
that resilience is a practice that's built. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to share pieces of wisdom around that today. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say just to add on that of like, working what I've recognized over the past few months of working alone, just like I'm starting to work with more small businesses and we can just support each other in whatever way we can. So, like this local bakery, I'm like, oh, I've decided for our grand opening, I'm just going to do a huge tabling event where everyone can just come and bring their business and bring their gifts, and network and really start to build that resilience and that community connection that's also intertwined with not only like our health and our meaning, but our financial well-being, and I think we would all much rather buy from, Bill down the street than like going on Amazon if it was the same kind of product, so um, yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. And really enjoying like your community too, not just spending all your time on your computer typing away, but like and that's the balance of it because it takes so much of really both. So finding your footing through that, I think, is a big part of it for sure.
absolutely. Well, thank you. Lots of thanks in the chats. Beautiful ideas and project. Thank you for doing the work to make a better world, showing us another world as possible.